There's a big difference between being busy and being effective. In a day and age where you have AI taking over, or you even have people that went home to work during the COVID era, you're seeing corporations one by one bringing people back into the workplace. Now it's less about time spent and more about time invested. Less about being busy and counting your hours and more about being productive and having a high level of productivity. I want to just talk a little bit today about being effective versus being busy. And I want to start with the way that we think. Remember this simple flow, okay? Our thoughts become our words. Our words become our actions, what we do. Our actions, what we do, sustained over a period of time, become our habits. And our habits, sustained over a period of time, become our character, okay? And so if we're thinking about how do we be effective versus just being busy, it really starts by the way that we think. I want you to imagine, what does the traditional employee think about when it pertains to money? Okay. So if you're an employee, like Robert Kiyosaki talks about in the cash flow quadrant, you go trade your time for money. And so an employee's traditional thought process is rate times hours equals income. And so rate times hours equals income. An employee thinks I need to go to work to make money. Now there's a lot of different types of employees out there, and that's not for all employees, but for the average employee, they get paid a rate, they submit a certain number of hours, and then they get an income. So the employee's thought process about making money is in the form of income. Now there's only 168 hours in a week, and so obviously this formula, in order for you to make more money, you either have to work more hours or you have to make more money per hour. And so we work hard to increase our average hourly pay, but in a day and age of productivity and incentive-based pay, we really have to start thinking about a little bit differently. Now let's think about the thoughts of a business owner. The thoughts of a business owner is not hours times rate equals my income. The thought of a business owner is revenue minus costs equals profit. Completely different formula, but that's how they're coming to their money stage. So if you think about revenue minus costs equals profit, your goal as a business owner is to maximize revenue, which we would call our top line. That's the money that's coming in, and minimize our costs, which is the portion that's being subtracted, so that we can maximize our what? Maximize our profit. And so we have to think about how to be effective, not necessarily how to be busy. I want you to imagine some of the busy activities. By the way, I've done all of these things. I remember if you're a student and you're in class and you are doing busy things like the teacher's asking, are you studying? Yeah, I'm studying, because in school, what do you have to do? Traditionally, you have to go to school, be there for a certain number of hours. And let's face it, in today's day and age, the majority of kids are going to graduate. And I think almost all the kids are going to graduate, especially if they show up. And I remember when I was in high school, there would be a fear of not graduating, and you would be called like a fifth year senior, super senior, or something like that. But for the most part, if you just show up and you're there and you're alive and you're breathing, you're going to graduate. That is not the way to prepare people for the real world, but it's how our current education system does it. Remember, I'm a big fan of education in general. I believe in reading books. I believe in finding mentors. I believe in going to seminars, watching videos, practicing. I believe in all of that tremendously, but I don't believe in our current education system. Our current education system just creates busyness. Like, come here and do this, study this for a while, take that test, regurgitate the information, and boom. And you're seeing people that are looking for other ways to educate themselves and to be more effective. So let's just talk about busyness versus being effective. I remember when I got started in business, and we would use this phrase called orbiter. And I smirk when I talk about it or think about it because it always makes me laugh. And an orbiter is somebody that comes to the office, and whatever line of work that you're in, if you're in an office place setting, or even a construction place setting, or any type of work, traditionally they're found in offices. You'll find what we call orbiters. And an orbiter is somebody that comes in and they walk a little bit slower, they talk a little bit slower, because remember, they're not trying to be effective. They're just coming in and spending time in the office. And they're equating how much time they spend in the office to how much money they're going to make in the future, when in reality, there's no direct correlation to the time you spend in an office to the amount of money that you're going to make. And so they come in and they say, hey, traffic was crazy today, wasn't it? And it's usually subjects about traffic or weather was nuts. It's pretty hot outside, got pretty cold outside. Did you see the rain? So it's traffic, weather, the game that was on the night before or 2 nights before, or how people are feeling. Oh, today I just didn't wake up right. I don't feel very good. So people will talk about how they feel. They'll talk about the weather, the sports game, the traffic. And really, what they're doing is they're checking in on everybody because they're not trying to be effective. And these are people that will actually suck the energy from the people trying to be effective. Now, I don't pass any judgment. You're free to orbit if you want to orbit. Just don't stop by my office because I've got kids, I have a wife, I got a business. I'm trying to get things done. And I'm not judging anybody, but the orbiters, they'll engage in conversations and they're great recruiters, meaning they'll ask a question and you'll end up having a surface level conversation for a while and you'll end up feeling like you were busy, but you won't be effective. You think about people that'll get into the office. Like I'm in a business where we encourage people to get into the office 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, get your work done, be productive before your lunch. But you'll see newer entrepreneurs or newer sales leaders that they don't have disciplines in place yet, which is another word, the disciplines, the daily monitoring activities the revenue generating activities, which I'll get to in a moment, that'll help you to be productive. So they'll come in at 9:45, 10 o'clock, and here's some of the things that they'll do. They'll check their emails. Okay. They'll scroll social media. They'll orbit the office a little bit, have some casual conversations. Maybe it's about what their boss was requesting or a post that they saw or what was on the news or something like that. And then before you know it, it's 11:30, 12 o'clock and they're packing it up for lunch. They go to lunch. They're not rushing back. They're kind of casual. They're coming back an hour and a half, 2 hours later. And now it's already 2:30 and they're already dealing with thinking about when their kids are getting off of school or what their wife needs them to do in the evening time or their spouse or whatever. And the point is they end up being at the office for a while and they end up not being productive. And here's the worst part. A lot of times they have a family member supporting them at home. And it's a husband or a wife or a parent or somebody that's supporting them. And so when they come home, now if you're single and everything and you don't have to get back to anybody, you could take the work that should be done in 4 hours and you could stretch it out to 8 or you could stretch it out to 12. You could be at the office all day long and feel like you got a lot done because you don't have a deadline and you don't have people counting on you later in the day. But for people like those are the individuals that I don't have much of an issue with. Take your time if that's what you want to do. I wouldn't want to do it that way, but if you want to take 4 hours of work and stretch it out over 8 or 12 hours, that's your business. But if you have a wife that's supporting you at home, men, think about this. If you have a wife that's supporting you at home and you're going to the office and you're just chit-chatting at your office and everything, here's a couple things that takes place. One, you're not being a great husband, you're not being a great father, and you're definitely not being a great leader because you're asking for that support from the house, but you're not being productive at the office. And so you're asking for the support, but really you're just prolonging and stretching your days because for a lot of men, they don't want to get back home and maybe deal with the kids or deal with their spouse or deal with their home responsibilities. And so it's easier. And I know I'm a man, I've done this before. It's easier to stay at your office later and act like you're busy getting things done. And when in reality, you're robbing your kids, you're robbing your wife, you're robbing your family of what they deserve. And they want you to be productive and make money, obviously, and they need money for things. But they also want to see you. And they don't want to see you coming home and acting like you're tired. They want to see you vibrant, excited. I know when I get home, my kids want to play hide and seek. They want to jump. They want to run. They want to play with daddy. They want to wrestle. And that takes energy. And so I'm required as a man to go to an office and give energy to my business to make sure that I'm productive and have that money come back to my family and come back to my office in the form of profits. And then at the same time, still get home and be a good husband and be a good father and take care of church responsibilities and make sure I'm being healthy with my body and make sure that I'm doing the right things for the community and being active. And so it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it definitely requires this. It requires us to focus on revenue generating activities. Revenue generating activities, if you're in sales or service, might be things like how many new prospects that you have, which are potential new customers. How many phone calls did you make? We call this firing missiles or outbound. Maybe it's how many appointments you ran. And either being on the phone with or in front of, somebody in your business who has not yet engaged in your business or bought your product or service. And so those are the harder people to talk to because it requires you to be on point. If you're already talking to a current customer, that's decent work, and you might be checking in, and that's a service call, and that's productive. But they're easier to talk to if they already are in your business or they're already your customer. When you're talking to somebody that's not in your business as a partner, or they're not a client of yours, that's going to require you to put more energy behind the conversation. So when you come into the office, you can't just plan on spending time there. You also have to be planning on spending a lot more productive hours there. And so to wrap up, as we think about revenue generating activities, I want you to think about this to give you a tip. You might be sitting there and saying, you know what? You're right. If I'm being honest with myself, I act busy sometimes, but I'm not productive. It's okay. You can't improve in this unless you acknowledge that that's how it is for you. And multiple times in my career, I realized, you know what, Jason, you're being busy, but you're not being productive. And so you need to get back to production and productivity. And so how do you do this? You need to make a list of activities that are revenue generating activities in your business, whatever yours is. If I come from a financial services or consulting or leadership development business, then mine is about being in front of people. I believe that everybody is in the service business, and I believe that everybody's in the people business. They may not know this, but they're in the service business or they're in their people business. And so mine is a combination of both. I provide a service with a product, and then I also am in the people business of mentoring and developing people. So if I'm going to make a list of key performance indicators or KPIs, these are activities that lead to numbers, okay? Or let's just start with the number. Your number may be the number of people I'm in front of every day. It may be the number of applications I'm doing per day. It may be the number of phone calls that you have per day. But what you're doing is you're putting metrics behind key performance indicators that you know that if you put energy to these KPI numbers, that they're going to yield you results. And so you're going to be productive and efficient and effective instead of just simply being busy. Now, every business has a different list of them. And so go to somebody that's successful in doing what it is that you do and ask, hey, what are the few metrics or what are the few key performance indicators that I need to focus on in order to be effective, not just busy in the business that I'm running? And I hope that this helps you to get to the next level of effectiveness. I hope that this makes you happier. Here's what I know. People that feel good, okay, end up doing good. And people that do good end up making money. And people that making money, they end up feeling confident. And when they feel confident, they do more of it. And it starts this chain reaction. And so just like improper eating could lead you downhill, well, so too is starting to be effective. That could lead you up to the next level. And instead of making it hard, it starts becoming more simple. And you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a business owner. Instead of thinking about rate times hours equals money, you start thinking about increasing your revenue, minimizing your costs, making profit, and you feel better about who you are and you continue to do more of it. And I hope that this helps you. I hope that if you're ready to take your next level of leadership journey, take a look at the link in the description below and find out if the ebook on being a leader for life is best for you. And I hope that you choose to be a leader for life.